honest. After we get around this corner, here we go. So here we are. Gray probe is coming together. Got the fuel rail in. I'm waiting on injectors back. Got the coolant pipe on. And all the way around. Got the thermostat in with the new gasket. Got the thermostat housing on. Putting all the old sensors back in. And on a couple of them, there's little O-rings. And you always want to replace these O-rings when you're putting old sensors back in so they don't leak. Distributors in. I'm about to put the exhaust manifold and turbo assembly on and make some more progress on this thing. Here we are. She's starting to come together, looking really clean, just like I wanted it. Nice and fresh. Got the turbo assembly on, heat shields are on. Just got to start buttoning up the accessories and coolant lines and stuff and electrical connectors. I'm still waiting to get my injectors back, but making some serious progress here. Alright, so turbo assembly's on, intake's on, intercooler piping's on, vane airflow meter, throttle body boot, all the coolant lines and feed lines and everything for the turbo. I got to do the oil feed line still. Got to put in the radiator, do the upper radiator hose, got to put in spark plugs, got to do the cam timing, got to put the distributor cap and rotor on with the wires, put timing covers on. I got to put the AC and power steering pump back in. When I get my injectors back, I got to get the fuel lines ran and get that all bolted down and done, and then bleed the brake master and bleed the brakes and then bleed the clutch before I determine whether or not the cylinders are salvageable. I don't know if they are. They both just go to the floor and stay there. So otherwise, yeah, this thing is pretty much back together, man. It's getting really close. Super happy that this car is coming together nice. Everything's all fresh and new looking in the engine bay. The car itself is nice and clean. Got to throw the axles in, do the shift linkages underneath and stuff, but this is going to be a nice, clean replacement, brand new drivetrain daily for the 626, or a potential sale and flip car for something else. So stay tuned. I got another car I'm going to be picking up here pretty soon probably, and it's going to be pretty cool. Alright, so today I got the axle seals changed out, got axles back in, put the hubs back together, shocks struts reattached, tie rod ends are reattached underneath, the linkage and torque mount are on and tight. Axles back in on this side as well, just got to tighten the axle nuts down. And then man, this looks so fresh and so clean. So I just got to do the timing belt. Got to do the timing belt. Got to put the accessories back on. Power steering, AC. Got to hook the engine harness up. I'm waiting to get my injectors back. I got to do those. Got to run the fuel lines, hook up the coolant lines to the intake manifold in the back. Fill it with fluids. Try and bleed the brakes in the slave and master cylinder for the clutch and replace them if I can't get them to bleed properly. And get a battery. And this thing is going to be 100% ready to rock. Alright, so here we are. Got the radiator in, upper radiator hose on. Still got to do the lower hose. Got the overflow line on. I got to put a clamp on it. Got the low coolant level sensor hooked up. Got to do plugs and wires on it. Have to do the cap, rotor, and wires. Still need injectors. I have to run the fuel lines for the fuel system. And then I got to do the PCV line. I got to do the accessory pulley and belts after I tighten up the camshaft and crankshaft bolts. I've got to do the heater hose lines, bleed the clutch and brakes, fill it with fluids, and she is pretty much ready to fire, man. And this car, like, this is different for me because it's like ground up, whole drivetrain rebuild, new axles and all that. Or no, I reused axles because they were in good shape, but it's even factory airbox. Like, this car is bone stock. I do have a zombie chipped ECU I'm gonna throw into it. I probably will end up putting a cone filter on it and an exhaust. It's gonna be open downpipe for right now. And then after that, this puppy will probably be my new daily driver, or it's going to just be like a backup daily. Here we are, getting really close. I got to tighten the camshaft pulley, got to tighten the crankshaft pulley, put on accessory belts. The axle nuts are torqued. Up radiator is completely installed. Upper and lower hoses on. Heater hoses is on. Feed line to the rail is on, and fuel pressure regulator and return are right there. I got to get my injectors and put those in. Everything else pretty much is hooked up. I've got to cut the plugs off the ends off of this EGR tube and weld them up, and then those go in both manifolds there and where that cap is. Distributors in, cap rotor wires. Got a new set of plugs for it. Power steering AC is on. Engine's completely assembled. It needs fluids. I got to put the hoses on the back where the oil cooler is. I've got to change the filter, top it off with fluids, put a battery in it, bleed the clutch and the brakes, and it is done. So there is still a little bit to go, but she is coming together. So we've been making a lot of progress on this car, well, mainly me. Chris has been a little bit more busy, so I haven't really had a chance to get much of his help. His car is sitting over here looking good. It's pretty much ready to go. He's got to bleed his brakes and the clutch as well. And then he's ready to go. And then if you look out here, the 626 had a pretty gnarly oil leak. You can see it on the ground there. I fixed that. I'd forgotten to tighten all the way the return line for the turbo. I got my spare tire off and got the original wheel back on with a new tire. You come over here and look. That MX-6, I put an engine in. That was one of the first jobs I did for this family. That probe, I did an in-car rebuild like I do with my red car. It's perfect. So pretty much every car on this property, other than my 626, has gotten an engine from me. You know, that MX-6 right there, that probe, that probe, that probe. I've done my red car here a couple times. So making some progress in the GD Mazda world. This is number 28 that I've saved. My white probe is. So this guy is going to be a super clean daily. I mean, look at how clean this thing is. Like, look at the engine. Looking all good. And then this whole car is just super straight. It's kind of hard to do this with the front camera, but look at how nice it is. So yeah, that'll make a good daily. No rust. 126,000 original miles. Car is a one-owner car, so looking forward to this thing running.